The great hall of Krathion Prime buzzed with celebration. Emperor Vothkar stood before his council, his scales gleaming under the golden lights. Today marked another victory for the Eternal Empire. The Luminari people had finally surrendered after 3 years of resistance. Their peaceful protests meant nothing against plasma cannons and war machines. The Luminari are now working in our mining colonies, announced General Kreshtor, bowing his massive head. Their children are being educated in proper ways. In 1 generation, they will forget they were ever free. The council members hissed their approval. This was the Krathian way. For 12,000 years, they had brought order to the galaxy. 847 star systems bowed to their rule. 127 species served the empire. The Krathian believed they were simply better than everyone else. Stronger, smarter, more deserving. Emperor Vothkar raised his clawed hand for silence. "We are the pinnacle of evolution," he declared. "Every species we conquer should thank us for bringing them purpose. They exist to serve. We exist to rule." The celebration continued for hours. Nobody noticed the first alerts from the deep space stations. Nobody paid attention to the quiet beeping on the monitoring screens. It was only when Admiral Voshka burst into the hall that the festivities stopped. "Emperor, we have detected something," the Admiral said, breathing hard. "A ship has appeared at the edge of our territory." Vothkar turned slowly. "One ship? You interrupt us for one ship?" "It came from uncharted space, my lord. The vessel is 15 kilometers long. We have never seen this design before. The materials do not match any known civilization." "One," the Emperor laughed. "Then they are new. They do not know who we are. Send a fleet. Teach them to bow or destroy them." Admiral Voshka hesitated. "We sent greetings, my lord. They did not respond. We sent warnings. Still nothing. Then they transmitted a message in our language." "What did they say?" "They said we have enslaved 127 sentient species. They demand we surrender our government for trial. They gave us 24 hours. The entire hall fell silent for a moment. Then the Emperor began to laugh. His council joined in, their hissing laughter filling the chamber like steam escaping from vents. "One ship demands the surrender of the Eternal Empire?" Vothkar wiped his eyes. "Admiral, take 50 warships. Destroy this foolish vessel. Bring me a piece of their hull as a trophy." Admiral Voshka bowed and left immediately. Within hours, a Krathian battle fleet assembled near the mysterious ship. 50 warships, each one a weapon of terrible destruction. These ships had burned planets and shattered moons. Their weapons could turn a city to glass in seconds. The human vessel waited silently in the darkness of space. It was huge and strange, with smooth surfaces that seemed to absorb light. No windows could be seen. No obvious weapons. It simply floated there like a massive piece of art. Admiral Voshka opened communications. "Unknown vessel. You have threatened the Krathian Empire. This is your final warning. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded, or we will open fire." The ship did not respond. "Very well," the Admiral said. He gave the order. 50 warships unleashed their fury at once. Plasma cannons fired streams of superheated matter. Antimatter torpedoes streaked through space, each one capable of destroying a city. Energy beams that could slice through mountains, all focused on one target. The firepower was incredible. It could have destroyed 100 ships or turned a moon to dust. But the human vessel did not explode. It did not even shake. Every shot simply stopped. Plasma fire touched an invisible barrier and dissipated like mist. Torpedoes froze in space, then gently drifted away. Energy beams bent around the ship as if space itself was curved. For 45 minutes, the Krathian fleet fired everything they had. Not a single scratch appeared on the hull. Admiral Voshka felt his blood turn cold. "What kind of shields are those?" he whispered. Then the human ship moved, not violently, calmly. It adjusted its position slightly, and a soft pulse of energy emerged from its surface. The pulse was invisible, but sensors detected it spreading outward in a perfect sphere. When the pulse reached the Kratheen ships, something terrible happened. Every weapon system on every ship began to melt. Plasma cannons dripped like wax. Torpedo tubes collapsed inward. Energy projectors sparked and died. In 10 seconds, 50 warships became harmless. The crews were alive. The ships could still move, but they could not fight. What did they do? One of the captains stammered over the radio. Admiral Voshka understood then. The humans had not even considered them a threat. They had disabled the fleet without killing anyone, without even trying hard. It was like an adult taking a knife from a child. Fall back, the admiral ordered quietly. Return to the capital. Tell the Emperor. He paused, searching for words. Tell him we never had a chance. As the Kratheen ships limped away, a message appeared on every screen across the fleet. It was text, simple and clear, in perfect Kratheen language. Your actions have been recorded for 12,000 years. Every crime, every atrocity, every life taken. You have 23 hours and 15 minutes remaining. Surrender or face judgment. The message was signed with 3 letters. UNs. Nobody in the Empire knew what those letters meant. But they were about to find out. The countdown had begun, and the Eternal Empire was running out of time. 300 years earlier, Earth burned. Nuclear fire consumed cities across the planet. Nations that had existed for centuries vanished in hours. Billions died in the initial strikes. Billions more died in the nuclear winter that followed. The Great War had finally come, and humanity had nearly destroyed itself. When the fires cooled and the survivors emerged, they looked at what remained and made a choice. Never again. Those 2 words became the foundation of everything that followed. The United Nations of Sol formed from the ashes. Every surviving nation joined together, not because they suddenly loved each other, but because they finally understood the alternative: unity or extinction. The choice was simple. For decades, humanity focused on survival. They cleaned the radiation from their soil. They rebuilt cities. They healed old wounds. But some leaders looked to the stars and asked a dark question. What if someone out there could do to us what we almost did to ourselves? So humanity prepared. In secret laboratories, scientists worked on new technologies. In hidden shipyards orbiting Jupiter and Saturn, engineers built vessels unlike anything Earth had created before. And across the galaxy, tiny probes spread out silently, watching and listening. For 300 years, humanity observed. They learned that the galaxy was full of life. Thousands of civilizations existed among the stars. Some were peaceful. Some were aggressive. And some, like the Kratheen, were monsters. The probes recorded everything. They saw the Kratheen conquer world after world. They watched entire populations enslaved. They documented children taken from parents and re-educated to forget their own cultures. They witnessed genocides when species resisted too much or were deemed incompatible with the Empire's plans. Earth's government debated for months. Some argued that the galaxy was not humanity's problem. They had enough issues rebuilding their own world. Others said that having power to stop evil and choosing not to use it was the same as helping that evil. Commander Elena Vasquez stood before the Parliament and spoke clearly. We almost destroyed ourselves 300 years ago, she said. We learned that evil grows when good people do nothing. We learned that silence helps the oppressor, never the victim. If we see what the Kratheen are doing and stay hidden, we are no better than they are. The vote was close, but humanity decided to act. They would end the Kratheen Empire. In the present day, Emperor Vothkar paced in his throne room. Admiral Voshka's report played again on the holographic display. 50 warships rendered helpless in minutes, not destroyed, disabled, as if the humans were teaching a lesson instead of fighting a battle. Call every fleet, the Emperor commanded. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. I want 5,000 warships at my capital within 12 hours. His advisors scrambled to obey. The Grand Armada began assembling. Ships that had conquered hundreds of worlds all gathered in one place. The largest military force the galaxy had ever seen, prepared for battle. Meanwhile, Crothian intelligence worked frantically. They analyzed every scan of the human vessel. The results terrified them. The hull material is stronger than anything we can make, one scientist reported nervously. The power readings suggest a fusion reactor that outputs energy like a small star. And their defensive technology. We have no idea how it works. What about their weapons? The Emperor demanded. Unknown, my lord. They have not used any true weapons yet. They simply disabled ours. Vothkar slammed his fist on the armrest. They will see our full strength. Prepare the planet killer. A shudder went through the room. The planet killer was the Empire's most terrifying weapon. A massive dreadnought that could crack planets apart with seismic resonance technology. It had been used only 3 times in 12,000 years. Each time, it destroyed an entire world to make other species obey through fear. As the countdown continued, the human ship broadcast a new message. This time, it was not just to the Crothian. It went to every communication device in the entire galaxy. Every screen, every radio, every holographic display received it simultaneously. A human woman appeared. She wore a simple military uniform with 3 silver stars on her collar. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard. People of the galaxy, she began, speaking in hundreds of languages simultaneously. My name is Commander Elena Vasquez of the United Nations of Sol. You know us as humans. For 300 years, we have watched you from the shadows. We have observed your civilizations, learned your languages, and studied your histories. The broadcast showed images then. Footage from those secret probes. Crothian soldiers herding families into slave ships. Children crying as they were separated from parents. Mass graves on conquered worlds. Peaceful protesters gunned down. Species wiped out completely because they would not submit. We have documented 12,000 years of Crothian crimes, Elena continued. We have recorded every atrocity. We know the names of the victims. We remember what the Empire wants you to forget. On 1,000 enslaved worlds, people stopped working and stared at screens in shock. Someone was speaking for them. Someone was showing the truth. We were not there to help you before, Elena said, and her voice carried real regret. That is our failure, and we acknowledge it. But we are here now. To every being living under Crothian oppression, I say this. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You deserve to be free. She turned her gaze to the camera, and it felt like she was looking directly at Emperor Vothkar. To the Crothian Empire, I say this. Your time is over. You have built your civilization on suffering. You have justified evil by calling yourselves superior. You are not superior. You are simply cruel. We gave you 24 hours to surrender peacefully. That time is almost gone. If you choose to fight, we will not kill you. We will simply remove your ability to hurt anyone ever again. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, millions of beings sat in stunned silence. Then, slowly, people began to hope. Maybe, just maybe, someone was finally strong enough to stop the Empire. Emperor Vothkar stared at the blank screen. His claws dug into the armrests of his throne hard enough to leave marks. Let them come, he hissed. We will show these humans what 12,000 years of conquest has taught us. Outside his palace, the Grand Armada finished assembling. 5,000 warships, gleaming and deadly, waited for the order to attack. The planet killer moved into position, its massive form casting shadows over the capital world. The countdown reached 0. In deep space, the human vessel began to move. The battle began at dawn, on Crothian Prime, 5,000 warships arranged themselves in attack formations perfected over thousands of years. The Crothian had conquered hundreds of civilizations with these tactics. Wave after wave of coordinated strikes, designed to overwhelm any defense. It had never failed before. The human vessel, the Retribution, moved steadily forward. It did not dodge. It did not try to run. It simply advanced through space, like a swimmer moving through water. All ships, fire, Admiral Kreshtor commanded. The first wave attacked. 1,000 warships unleashed their weapons simultaneously. The amount of firepower was staggering. Enough destructive power to glass an entire planet's surface. The space between the fleet and the Retribution filled with plasma fire, missiles, and energy beams. The human ship disappeared behind a wall of explosions. For a moment, the Crothian dared to hope. Then the light faded, and the Retribution emerged, completely undamaged. "Second wave! Fire!" the Admiral shouted. More ships attacked, then the third wave. The fourth. Weapons fired continuously for 10 minutes straight. The sensors showed impact after impact, yet the human vessel's hull never showed a single scratch. "How?" a captain whispered. "How is this possible?" The Retribution finally responded. Not with massive weapons or dramatic explosions. It simply released thousands of small objects from bays along its hull. They looked like metal spheres, each about the size of a ground car. They spread out in all directions, moving with incredible speed. "Drones!" someone yelled. "They have launched drones." The Crothian ships tried to shoot them down, but the small machines moved too fast. They weaved through weapons fire like dancers. Within seconds, they reached the fleet. What happened next would be analyzed for years. Each drone targeted a single warship. They did not explode. They did not fire weapons. Instead, they attached themselves to specific points on each vessel. Then they released focused electromagnetic pulses. Systems began failing across the fleet. Weapons powered down. Engines sputtered. Communications went dark. One by one, 5,000 warships became floating pieces of metal. The crews were alive and unharmed, but their ships could no longer fight. In less than 15 minutes, the Grand Armada was defeated. Admiral Kreshtor stared at his dark screens in disbelief. Nothing worked. Even life support was running on backup power only. His mighty flagship, which had destroyed moons and conquered systems, was now just an expensive piece of debris. Then the planet killer arrived. The massive dreadnought was 10 times larger than any other ship in the fleet. Its hull was covered in weapons and armor plating meters thick. At its heart was the seismic resonance cannon, a weapon that could literally shake a planet apart from orbit. "Planet killer online," its captain reported to the Emperor. "Charging main weapon." On the surface of Crothian Prime, billions watched on their screens. The Emperor had ordered this broadcast to show the Empire's strength. Now they watched to see if their ultimate weapon could succeed where 5,000 ships had failed. The planet killer's main cannon began to glow. Power from its massive reactors flowed into the weapon. The air around it shimmered from the energy buildup. This was a weapon that had cracked 3 worlds. Surely nothing could withstand it. "Fire," the captain said calmly. A beam of pure energy, wider than a city block, shot from the planet killer directly at the Retribution. This was not a simple laser or plasma bolt. This was focused power equal to a star's core, all directed at a single target. The human ship's shields activated visibly for the first time. A blue shimmer appeared around its hull. The beam struck, and the Retribution actually moved backward several kilometers. Energy crackled across its surface. Sparks flew from some sections of the hull. "We hit it!" the planet killer's captain shouted. "We actually damaged it!" But the Retribution was not destroyed. It was not even critically damaged. As the weapon's fire ended, the ship stabilized itself. The damaged sections began to repair themselves, nanomachines working at incredible speed to fix the hull. Then it was humanity's turn. The Retribution did not fire a weapon at the planet killer. Instead, it transmitted a signal. A powerful, focused broadcast directly at the massive dreadnought's computer systems. In 17 seconds, human artificial intelligence infiltrated every system on the planet killer. Firewalls meant to be impenetrable were bypassed as if they were made of paper. Security protocols thousands of years old were cracked instantly. "We are locked out," the planet killer's technology officer screamed. "Something is controlling our systems." The weapons powered down. The engines stopped. Then every screen on the ship, and on the surface of Crothion Prime, began showing images. But these were not images the Crothian wanted to see. The planet killer's own logs and recordings played for everyone. 3 worlds dying. Billions of beings screaming as their planets broke apart. Children, families, entire civilizations erased in minutes. The planet killer had kept records of everything. Now those records were being broadcast across the galaxy. "Turn it off!" Emperor Vothkar screamed, but his technicians could not. The humans controlled the broadcast. For 30 minutes, the galaxy watched the Empire's greatest weapon confess its crimes. By the end, even some Crothian citizens were weeping or looking away in shame. The Emperor made his decision. All remaining forces, retreat to the surface. Activate planetary defenses. The surface of Crothion Prime had weapons too. Thousands of platforms in orbit, massive cannons built into mountains, and a shield that covered the entire planet. One that had never been breached in 8,000 years. Behind this shield, the Emperor felt safe, but he was not done. He went to the palace dungeon, where special prisoners were kept, leaders of conquered species, held as trophies and hostages. If the humans tried to attack the surface, he would execute them all. "Send a message to the human ship," he ordered. "Tell them, if they try to breach the shield, these prisoners die." The message was sent. The Retribution received it and stopped advancing. For hours, nothing happened. The stalemate held. Then a new message came from the human ship. It was directed specifically to Emperor Vothkar. "I am Commander Elena Vasquez of the UNS Retribution. I request to meet with you face to face. I will come to your palace alone and unarmed. I wish to speak with you before more violence occurs." The Emperor's council erupted in debate. It was obviously a trick. No one would actually do this. But if she really came alone and unarmed, they could capture her, perhaps use her as a hostage to force the human ship to leave. "Tell her to come," the Emperor decided. "But if this is a trick, kill the prisoners immediately." A small shuttle detached from the Retribution. It flew down through the atmosphere, passing through the planetary shields without any trouble. This alone should have alarmed the Crothian, but they were too focused on their trap. The shuttle landed in the palace courtyard. The door opened. Commander Elena Vasquez stepped out, wearing only her uniform. No armor. No visible weapons. She walked calmly toward the palace entrance, as hundreds of guards aimed their weapons at her. She entered the throne room where Emperor Vothkar waited, surrounded by his elite guards. The prisoners knelt in chains at his feet. He held a weapon, pointed at one of them. Elena looked around calmly, then focused on the Emperor. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," she said simply. "You are a fool," Vothkar replied. "You think you can negotiate? You are my prisoner now. Order your ship to leave, or these beings die. Then, you die." Elena smiled sadly. "You still do not understand, do you? I did not come here to negotiate. I did not come here. I did not come here to negotiate." "Then why come?" "To give you one last chance to choose." The Emperor laughed. "I am not the one without choices, human. You are." Elena nodded slowly. "I see. Then I am sorry it ends this way." She spoke 2 words clearly. Protocol 7. The palace began to shake. The floor of the throne room cracked open, not from explosions or weapons fire. The cracks appeared in precise patterns, like someone had drawn lines on the marble floor. Then sections of the floor simply fell away, revealing dark tunnels beneath. From those tunnels came humans. They wore powered armor that made them look twice their normal size. Their movements were smooth and fast, almost too fast to follow. They carried weapons, but those weapons remained lowered. They were not here to kill. They were here to rescue. Emperor Vothkar stumbled backward in shock. How? The planetary shield. Your shield stops attacks from above, Elena said calmly. We came from below. While your fleet fought our ship, other human vessels drilled through your planet's crust. They have been creating tunnels for the past 18 hours. Your sensors never detected them, because we tunneled through areas with high mineral interference. The Emperor's guards raised their weapons, but before they could fire, small devices attached to their armor activated. Localized electromagnetic pulses shut down every weapon system in the room. The guards stood holding useless pieces of metal. Get the hostages out, Elena ordered. The human soldiers moved with incredible efficiency. They broke the chains, holding the prisoners, checked them for injuries, and began leading them toward the tunnels. The entire operation took 90 seconds. 90 seconds to free prisoners that had been held for years. Emperor Vothkar roared in rage and grabbed a ceremonial blade from the wall. He lunged at Elena, the blade aimed at her throat. She moved aside smoothly, faster than any unenhanced human should be able to move. The Emperor stumbled past her, and two soldiers caught him, restraining him without hurting him. Enhanced reflexes, Elena explained, tapping her temple. Subtle neural improvements. We learned a long time ago that leaders who stay behind desks while others fight are bad leaders. I have been enhanced just enough to survive situations like this. The Emperor struggled but could not break free. He was strong, but human-powered armor was stronger. He looked at Elena with pure hatred. You cannot do this. I am the Emperor of the Eternal Empire. I am. You are a war criminal. Elena interrupted quietly. You have ordered the deaths of billions. You have enslaved entire species. You have justified it all by believing you were superior, but you were wrong. Power does not make you superior. It just makes you dangerous. The Krotheen are the most advanced species in the galaxy. You were, Elena corrected, until you met us, and we became advanced not because we are naturally better than anyone else. We became advanced because we almost destroyed ourselves and learned from it. We learned that the same supremacist thinking you embrace nearly ended our species. We could have become like you. Instead, we chose to be better. She looked at him with something like pity. I offered you a choice. Stand trial with dignity and help your species heal, or die as a tyrant. You chose to threaten hostages instead. You chose violence, so we removed your ability to harm anyone. What happens now? The Emperor asked bitterly. Now you face justice. But not our justice. The justice of the people you hurt. They will decide your fate. As the Emperor was led away, Elena walked to the palace balcony. She could see the capital city spreading below. Millions of Krotheen citizens going about their lives. Many did not even know the Empire had fallen yet. Commander, her second-in-command said through her communication device. All hostages are secure. Operation was successful. 0 casualties on both sides. Good. Begin Phase 2. Transmit the liberation codes. Across the galaxy, something extraordinary happened. Human ships appeared in orbit over every world the Krotheen had enslaved. Not 5,000 ships. Not 10,000. 20,000 vessels, all built in secret over 3 centuries, all painted with the same symbol, a simple blue circle representing Earth. The message broadcast simultaneously to every enslaved world was simple. You are free. The Krotheen Empire has ended. We are here to protect you while you decide your own future. We will not rule you. We will not stay forever. Your freedom belongs to you. On 100 worlds, Slaves dropped their tools in shock. Overseers found their weapons no longer worked. Prison camps opened their gates. In some places, there was celebration. In others, confusion. Some people had been enslaved for so long they did not know what freedom even meant. The galaxy changed in a single day. 6 months later, the trials began. The former empire's leadership stood before a tribunal on a neutral station built by humans, but run by representatives from freed species. The courtroom was massive, with sections for each species that had suffered under Crothian rule. Elena attended as a witness, not a judge. She provided evidence, recordings, documents. Everything humanity's probes had gathered over 300 years. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. But something unexpected emerged during the trials. Many ordinary Crothian citizens testified that they had not known about the worst atrocities. They had been fed propaganda their entire lives. They thought the Empire was bringing order and civilization, not committing genocide. Some had questioned the official stories, but were punished for speaking up. A Crothian woman named Thelvara took the stand. She had been a military officer who refused orders to massacre civilians on a rebellious world. She had been imprisoned for her refusal. "I am ashamed of what my species became," she testified, her voice breaking. "I cannot undo the past. None of us can. But there are Crothian who want to make amends. We want to help rebuild what we destroyed. If you will let us." The freed species debated long into the night. Some wanted all Crothian punished. Others saw the possibility of redemption. The arguments were fierce and emotional. Wounds so deep could not heal quickly. Elena was asked her opinion. She stood before the assembly and spoke honestly. "On Earth, we had similar situations after our wars. Entire populations that participated in or ignored atrocities. We learned that justice must be careful. Punish the guilty, yes, but do not punish people for being born into an evil system. Judge individuals by their choices, not their species." She paused, remembering her own history lessons. "We also learned that revenge feels good in the moment but builds nothing. If you want peace, you must give people a path to redemption. Not an easy path, not a path without consequences, but a path nonetheless." The trials continued for months. The emperor and his direct supporters were sentenced to life imprisonment. They would spend the rest of their lives in secure facilities, unable to harm anyone else. Lesser officials received varying sentences based on their specific crimes. But something else happened too. The Crothian, who genuinely wanted to change, were given a chance. They would spend years in service, helping rebuild destroyed worlds, providing resources to freed slaves, working to make amends. It would take generations. Some freed species refused to accept Crothian help, and that was their right. But the door to redemption stayed open for those willing to walk through it. One evening, Elena stood on the observation deck of the Retribution, watching the stars. Her second-in-command joined her. "Was it worth it?" he asked. "All the preparation? All the secrecy? All the risk?" Elena thought about the freed slaves she had met. The families reunited, the children who would grow up free. She thought about the Crothian, who were genuinely trying to change. "Yes," she said softly. "Breaking the chains was the easy part. Building something better from the ruins, that's harder. But it is worth it." "Lefno, Lefno, Lefno, what happens now? Do we stay and enforce the peace?" Elena shook her head. "We help, but we do not rule. The freed species must find their own way. We will watch. We will be ready if tyranny rises again. But their future belongs to them." She looked at Earth on the navigation display. That small blue world, where humanity had almost destroyed itself, and then chose to be better. "We did not come to build a human empire," she said. "We came to prove that empires can be ended. That might does not make right. That the only moral use of power is protecting those who cannot protect themselves." Her second-in-command nodded. "The watch continues." Then, always, Elena agreed. Always. 1 year after the Empire fell, the galaxy was still learning how to be free. The changes happened faster than anyone expected, but not always smoothly. On some worlds, former slaves celebrated their freedom and quickly organized new governments. On others, chaos erupted as different groups fought over power. Without the Empire forcing order, old conflicts that had been buried for generations suddenly resurfaced. The economic problems were severe. The Empire's economy had been built on slave labor. Trillions of beings who had been forced to work suddenly needed real jobs, real wages, and real purposes. Many worlds faced starvation as production collapsed. Trade routes that the Empire had controlled became battlegrounds for pirates and warlords. Humanity had prepared for war. They had not fully prepared for peace. It was much more complicated. Admiral Elena Vasquez, promoted after her success, now commanded a humanitarian fleet instead of a warship. The Retribution had been joined by thousands of other vessels. But these were not weapons of war. They carried food synthesizers, medical equipment, construction materials, and most importantly, teachers. The Vescara system is reporting food shortages, her operations officer reported. They lost 90% of their agricultural workers when the Empire collapsed. The workers were all slaves from other systems who have now returned home. Send supply ships, Elena ordered. And contact their provisional government. Offer to help them set up automated farming systems. We will provide the technology for free. Admiral, we have received 847 requests for aid. We cannot help everyone at once. Elena rubbed her tired eyes. Prioritize by need. Systems facing starvation first. Then medical emergencies. Then reconstruction. Make the list. And do what we can. This was the reality of liberation. Freedom was not a magic solution. It was just the beginning of a long, difficult process. Some situations were heartbreaking in unexpected ways. On Telora IV, the human aid workers found something they had not anticipated. The Teloran people had been enslaved for 6 generations. They had forgotten how to make decisions for themselves. When humans asked what they wanted, what kind of government they preferred, many Talorans could not answer. Some even asked for Krothine overseers to return because the freedom was too frightening. Elena visited Telora IV personally to meet with a young Teloran leader named Ves. They sat in a temporary shelter that humans had built, drinking synthesized tea. My people do not know how to be free, Ves said quietly. For 6 generations, every decision was made for us. What to eat, where to work, when to sleep. Now you ask us to decide everything, and we are paralyzed. Is this what freedom feels like? This fear? Elena set down her cup carefully. Can I tell you about my grandfather? Ves nodded. He survived a genocide on Earth. His entire family was killed. After the war ended, he spent years in therapy, learning how to live with the trauma. He told me once that freedom after oppression feels like falling. You spend so long in chains that when they come off, you do not remember how to walk. How did he learn? Slowly. With help. With patience. Elena leaned forward. Ves, there is no shame in needing time to heal. Your people were hurt deeply. Healing takes time. We will help you for as long as you need. We will send counselors, educators, advisors. But the decisions must ultimately be yours. Even if those decisions are slow. Even if you make mistakes. What if we fail? Then you learn from failure and try again. That is freedom. The right to succeed and the right to fail. Both on your own terms. It was a conversation Elena would have hundreds of times on dozens of worlds. Freedom was harder than anyone wanted to admit. Meanwhile, the Krothine faced their own crisis of identity. Their empire was gone. Their leadership was imprisoned. Millions of ordinary Krothine citizens struggled with what they had learned about their own history. Some refused to believe the evidence. Others fell into despair. A few sought revenge against humans, for destroying their civilization. But some chose a different path. Thelvara, the former military officer who had refused to commit atrocities, became the leader of a movement called the New Way. Kratheen, who joined this movement, accepted responsibility for their species' crimes and committed to making amends. Their first test came on Vesca IV. The planet had been strip-mined by the Empire, its crust destabilized. Now, volcanic eruptions threatened millions of inhabitants. Human ships were days away, too far to help in time. A Kratheen fleet under Thelvara's command was nearby. They could run, avoid the consequences of what their ancestors had done, or they could help. All ships, move to Vesca IV, Thelvara ordered. Begin evacuation operations immediately. Her officers hesitated. Commander, the Vescan people. They will remember us as their enslavers. They may attack us, rather than accept rescue. Then we will rescue them anyway. This is what making amends means. The Kratheen ships entered Vesca IV's atmosphere and began evacuating civilians. The Vescan people did scream in terror when they saw their former oppressors. Some refused to board, but the Kratheen persisted, gently but firmly saving lives. 3 Kratheen ships were destroyed by volcanic debris. 200 Kratheen soldiers died in the rescue efforts, but 2.3 million Vescan lives were saved. News of the rescue spread across the galaxy. It did not erase the past, but it was a beginning. A proof that change was possible. 6 months after that, representatives from all the freed species gathered on a neutral station for the Galactic Assembly. Humans chaired the meeting but made it clear they had only one vote, the same as everyone else. The debate lasted for weeks. Should they rebuild as separate civilizations and avoid each other? Should they form a loose alliance? Should they try to create something more unified? Some species wanted to eliminate all Kratheen. Others wanted to isolate themselves and never interact with the galaxy again. Old conflicts between species that had both been enslaved now erupted. The assembly seemed close to failure multiple times. Then, a young Luminari delegate named Sela stood to speak. The Luminari had been the most recently enslaved species, their suffering still fresh. "I hate the Kratheen," she said bluntly. "They took 3 years of my life. They killed my brother when he protested. I will never forget that. Never forgive it." The room was silent. "But," she continued, "the humans showed us something important. They showed us that power can be used to free instead of enslave. They could have destroyed the Empire completely, killed every Kratheen, and ruled the galaxy themselves. They chose not to. They gave us the choice, instead." She looked around at the assembled delegates. "If we choose revenge and hatred now, if we refuse to work together, then we learn nothing. The Empire controlled us through fear and division. If we stay divided, stay afraid, then they still control us even though they are gone." Sela's voice grew stronger. "I say we honor those we lost by building something they never got to see. A galaxy where different species work together as equals. Where no one species can dominate another because we protect each other. Where even former enemies can find redemption through action, not just words." The vote was close, but the Galactic Federation was born. Its founding principles were simple. Every species has the right to control their own destiny. All members defend each other against tyranny. Technology and knowledge are shared freely. Justice focuses on healing and prevention, not just punishment. And power must always be checked by accountability. Humanity's final contribution was perhaps their most radical. Admiral Vasquez proposed that humans share all their advanced technology with every member species immediately. "Give them everything," she told the UNS Parliament. "Our weapons, our ships, our defensive systems. Make our technological advantage disappear." "But Admiral," a Parliament member protested, "that technology is what keeps us safe." "Exactly," Elena replied. "We do not want an edge. We want equality. We did not come to be the new empire. We came to make empires impossible. The only way to do that is to ensure no one species can dominate the others. Not even us. The Parliament approved her proposal. Within a year, human technology spread throughout the Federation. Other species added their own innovations. The result was a true sharing of knowledge that accelerated everyone's development. 5 years after the Retribution first appeared, Elena stood on the observation deck of the Federation station. Behind her, beings of 100 different species worked side by side. Insectoid, reptilian, crystalline, mammalian, and more, all cooperating. A young Crothine approached nervously. She was a student, part of the first generation, raised learning the true history of her species, rather than propaganda. Admiral Vasquez, the young Crothine said softly, "May I ask you something?" "Of course. Why did humans help us? After what we did, why not just destroy us all?" Elena knelt to the child's eye level. "Because we know what it is like to be our own worst enemy. We know that entire species can lose their way. We almost destroyed ourselves with the same kind of thinking your ancestors had. We learned that breaking cycles of hatred is the only way forward. But my people did terrible things." "Yes," Elena said honestly. "They did. And those things can never be undone. But you are not your ancestors. You are a child who has a choice. They never gave others. The choice to be better than they were. The choice to help heal instead of hurt. That choice is yours." The young Crothine thought about this. "I want to be better. Then you will be. And that is how the galaxy heals. One choice at a time." The Retribution prepared to return to human space that evening. Its mission was complete. As it jumped to faster-than-light travel, Elena recorded her final log. "We did not end an empire to build another one. We ended an empire to prove that power used for anything except protecting the vulnerable is power misused. The galaxy is free now. Whether they stay free depends on them. We will watch. We will be ready. But we will not rule. Humanity's role is not to dominate, but to remember. Remember what we almost lost when we nearly destroyed ourselves. Remember what we learned about power and responsibility, and ensure no one else has to learn those lessons the hard way." This is Admiral Elena Vasquez, signing off. The watch continues. 50 years later, the Galactic Federation thrived. A statue stood in the center of Federation Station. It showed a human and a Crothine, with hands clasped, both looking toward the stars. The inscription was written in every galactic language. "From the ashes of tyranny, we build together. Never forget. Never again." And in deep space, human vessels still patrolled, now joined by ships from 100 species. They watched for new threats, ready to protect the freedom they had all fought to achieve. The Retribution itself had been retired and converted into a museum, a reminder not of human superiority, but of a simple truth. Power without compassion is tyranny. Compassion without power is helpless. Both together can change everything.